Hey, my name is Sondre and welcome back to my living room. Today I'm gonna be building a floating table that technically doesn't float, but kind of looks like it does, which if you think about it is even more confusing. At the end of the video we'll be testing the table with this super heavy monster plant, which means 4.7 million kilos could end up on the floor if I get it wrong. This is going to take the full force of my brainpower, since the model part was already pretty difficult. And I hope this isn't a bad sign for later, because oh my god, look at this beauty. Bad. Okay, let's rewind this and explain how it works, because right now it kind of looks like magic. If you've seen any of my videos, you'll know I'm a huge fan of multifunctional design and boxes, which is why I'll be basing my design on a multifunctional box. I'm thinking this simple shape will make the illusion of floating feel stronger, but it also means we can use these different levels for storage, which is both cool, practical, and something we definitely need more of. Okay, clap your hands on 1, 2, tensegrity. Wow. So this is how we will make the table float, by using a principle called tensegrity. And notice the red string here, because this one is critical and will be carrying most of the weight. But then we've got these green strings here that are also in tension, and if you look at what's happening when I try to push the structure out of balance, it keeps going back to its starting position, which is pretty cool, because that's what we want. Okay, so in theory this should work. But just to be sure, here's a bit more theory. Tensegrity, short for tensional integrity, is a structural principle where isolated components are held in place by a network of tension, which allows for the compressed component. Okay, let's start building. As you watch me setting up my little workshop here, let me tell you my goals for this table, of which I have 2. First, it has to be simple, because when it comes to my skills in woodworking, this is very much a don't look too closely or you'll see how inaccurate it is type of project. The second goal is to avoid power tools, because I don't own any. To hit the sweet spot of being both affordable and strong, I'm using my 15mm old plywood friends here, which I'm marking up with extreme precision. The next step is to drill holes for the future wood pegs, and we'll start by doing it the wrong way. And now, let's do it the right way. Notice how I'm carefully making splinters here, since it will be visible in the end and I love spending time trying to glue them back in. The wood pegs themselves are cut in a satisfying sequence. And to make sure I foreshadow some upcoming structural problems, I'm adding either way too much or way too little glue between each element. The good news is that we've never been closer to building this table than we are right now. Unless you're watching this for a second time, in which case, why and thank you. The bad news is that this doesn't feel strong enough at all, and I'm pretty sure it will break as soon as I put my plant on top. Time to call in support from my favorite organization. This is once again one of those design details of don't look too closely or you'll see how inaccurate it is. So I'll do you the favor of zooming out. While the glue is drying, let's go back to yesterday, where I took this out into the backyard for some sanding. The weather was pretty cold, but apart from that, there's not much to say here really. Except maybe that you can pick up the plans for this table on my website now. So have fun building and let me know how it turns out. Alright, time to make this table a flotation device. First, we need a way to attach the ropes, and there were many good options here, but I ended up going for these little guys, which I couldn't resist placing in the middle of the wood dowels here. I can't decide if this is extra clever or extra stupid, so let me know in the comments if you think it's a good idea. Next is the rope, which I simply tied into an overhand running granny sheepshank knot here with an extra fisherman's tunic in a cowhitch. And notice how I'm using the 8 square version, as that gives the bowline an extra sheet bend. They didn't work so well for the side parts of the table though, so I went with these metal chains instead, which are more for side movement anyway, so it should be okay that they're a bit weaker. And honestly, I just really found them nice. So nice. Okay, as we're getting close to the end here, and I'm getting more and more nervous about how much this table actually can carry, I figured I'd look for some inspiration to answer a simple question. How much can tension actually carry in the real world? Like here, in the Olympic Park in Munich, which was designed for the 1972 Summer Olympics in Germany. The roof was designed by architect Frei Otto to feel light, almost like fabric stretched through the air. And instead of relying on heavy beams, the structure uses a network of steel cables that are pulled tight in tension. Now, technically speaking, this is actually called a tensile structure, which means it carries only tension and no compression or bending, and so it doesn't meet the pretty strict and also pretty interesting criteria of a tensegrity structure, but it does give us an idea of how much potential there is in designing around tension. It's strong, but it doesn't look heavy, and in fact it looks a little bit like it's floating slightly above ground. And seeing how something this large can be carried only by tension, it feels pretty safe to assume that a simple table should be able to carry our living room plant. Maybe. That's a big fat maybe there, Sondre. But yeah, let's put on some glamour shot music and do some testing. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments and, subscribe and all that if you want. And I'll see you in the next one. Jesus.